Hi, this is Em, and this is going to be the June garden vlog. And if this is something that you're interested in, then please stay tuned. Over here to the lower left is the Ornamental poppy, and while it doesn't necessarily do anything for flower pressing, I just thought that I would include it. And in case some of you are curious, you see these little foam? Those are called spittlebugs, and there's a lot of spittlebugs in my garden. They don't really seem to do anything bad to the plants. Underneath all that foam is a little tiny green, soft kind of little critter. But anyway, there's a lot of them in this yard, so you'll see a lot of spit as we go through a couple things. And then here's where these poppies make their little seed pods. Then over here in the background, the roses are starting to come on, and I press roses and I dry roses and I use them in handmade paper. Another thing that's coming on right now is lupine, and I have several different colors in the garden, from this pinkish color to darker pink to some blues, and I press the individual florets. Here's some Siberian iris, pretty much in full bloom right now, and they're good for eco-printing. They're really too fleshy for pressing, but they impart some good color in the eco-print. The spiky things that you see in this shot is what I call toad flax, and I have them in both that bluish color and the pinkish color. And then here is some bluish violet color lupine. There's several different kinds of lavender in the garden, and here's one that's blooming right now. And I like to pick them before the flowers start to appear, when they're still in this tight cluster form. This is foxglove, and I press the individual florets and they turn kind of tissue paper thin. And I don't do it too much, but you can press them, and every once in a while I do. The leaves of the foxglove I use in eco-printing, and they do a really good job. Here's an astrantia. This is the white one that you might have heard me talk about in my last video, and they're just starting to flower now. And I guess if I had to say one of my favorite flowers, it'd probably be the astrantia. Here's some pink astrantia, and I'll be pressing those today, and it's been raining for the last probably week and a half, and that's the only reason I still have some left in the garden. But after today, they'll pretty much be gone. You may recall from last month's video blog that I talked about the carrot and how it was starting to flower. Well, now I know what the flower looks like, and I thought I'd go ahead and do a follow-up to show you. And they're a lot more like a snow mound, in other words, circular, than the Queen Anne. So I think what I'm going to do with these is I'm going to pick, see this individual floret here? Is I'm going to pick this individual floret and just press them individually, because I think those will look really nice, and I like the way these leaves come out. So I think those would be cool. And I'm not sure if these are fully opened yet. I think I'll go ahead and try some of these, whereas these centers don't look quite ready. But I've got quite a few flowers on this little stand right here. Something else coming on right now is this gray Santalina, and I don't press those, but I do. These aren't quite opened up enough yet, probably in a couple more days, but they get these tiny yellow flowers, and I really love using them in dried flower arrangements. Another one that works well in dried flower arrangements is, it's called the curry plant, and it really does smell like curry. And again, these aren't quite opened up yet enough, probably in another couple of days, but they get these little mounds of yellow flowers they'll be small, but they'll open up a little bit more and be really good for arrangements. And just remember that if you're picking things for drawing, like lavender or in this case the curry, or the one that I just showed you a minute ago, the gray Senolina, it's best to pick them before they're fully opened, because as they dry, and I put them in bundles and hang them upside down, they will continue to open even more. So if you pick them when they're already fully opened, then they'll get past their prime once they're dry. So you want to lean on the not fully open side. So I may even pick a couple of these today just to see. This is some chocolate cosmos, and it's the first time I've had it in my yard, and I really don't know what I'm going to do with it yet because I haven't pressed them and I haven't used them for eco printing. But I just thought I'd go ahead and show a quick snip of them, just in case I end up doing something with them. I want to make sure I remember what they look like. They are very, very deep, velvety, burgundy red. They're very pretty. This is an Oriental oregano called Kirigami, and what I use it for is I pick these, they kind of remind me of a hop, but I pick these little clusters and then I press these pieces, and this purplish color holds for a really, really long time, and they're just beautiful as a pressed flower. And I imagine you could probably dry them too, but pretty much I use them in pressed flower arrangements. This is the single petal, and I call it the wild columbine. I see these up in the mountains along, for example, when I've traveled to the Columbia Gorge, up in the mountains I've seen them. And so I can just kind of call them the wild single columbine. And in my last vlog where I talked about columbine, I said how hard it is to get the single ones, and then I had the mountain ones that didn't do very well. Well, this is my main clump, and it has more flowers on it now than it's ever had. And so I'm going to let them, I haven't picked them. I love to dry these, they worked really well, but this year I haven't picked any of them for pressing, and I'm just letting them all go to seed, and I'm going to scatter them around the yard and just cross my fingers and hope that that they will give me some volunteers. So we'll see, but this is the most I've had, and I'm really happy with them. This is Cosmos. This is an annual, and they're just getting started. I especially like the more saturated pink colors for pressing, as well as the eco printing, and the leaves also press really well. This is the full-size lady's mantle, and they're getting their little star-shaped type yellowish flowers, and those are good for pressing. Here's another clump of what I call the regular lady's mantle, and you can see how well these flowers are looking. They're just ready for pressing right now, so I'll be doing that later this afternoon. Something else that's one of my favorites is and I may have talked about it in past videos, but these are flowering now, so I wanted to show you what the flowers look like, is let's see, there's regular lady's mantle, dwarf lady's mantle, alpine lady's mantle. I think this is the dwarf. I always get them confused. But what is really cool about these is you can see these silverish tinges on the leaves, but the underside is like silver silk. And I generally will use this side when I'm making arrangements. So nothing is quite as sheeny as these particular leaves. And then the flowers are interesting pressed too. And here's what the flowers look like. They remind me of the regular lady mantle that I showed you a little bit ago that's also in flower. But this one, while they have those small little yellowish star-shaped flowers, they do have a little bit of that silver sheeny in them that the regular lady's mantle doesn't have. So I showed you the regular lady's mantle in flower a few minutes, a little bit ago. This is, I think this is the dwarf, and then I'll go show you real quick just to remind you what the alpine looks like. And this is the alpine lady's mantle. See how small these are? I mean, they're just really tiny. They're really good for detail work. hold their color really well. And it's a slow forming carpet. And what I do is, they like gravel, they like well-drained soil. And so what I'll do is I'll grab a clump like this and go up under it with my trowel, and then take a clump and then relocate it to other areas. Real easy to start more clumps around the yard by doing that. And hopefully, it's been here a couple of years now, hopefully it'll last for a long time. That's one of the reasons why I want to start different clumps around the yard. So if one clump dies, then maybe another won't. And what's interesting is you see underneath here, underneath this lavender bush, how these are lighter. They're lighter and they're a little bit bigger. So that's the difference between shade, and then this is getting full sunlight. This is Perennial delphinium. I have 3 colors, this deep blue, medium blue, and then a light blue. And I've already picked one of the stalks for pressing, and then the ones that are fully open in the center of the frame here will be ready today. And when they make it through the press, which for the most part they do, they are really, really beautiful. Here's the lighter blue and then the medium blue delphinium that I was talking about. And some of them are just perfect for pressing right now, and you can press them both open face or in profile. The snapdragons are starting to flower right now, and there's a lot of different colors in the garden, and they will press, and they also work well for eco-printing. And what I do when I press them, generally speaking, is I will try to open them kind of like this, or I will do them in profile or closed like this, or in profile. Just play around. You can get some interesting shapes out of them, so I just try all different variants to see how they'll press. I really like this color here, and here's some white ones, and then there's some more purple ones in the background. This is calendula, and I press them as well as for eco-printing, but I probably lean more to eco-printing with calendula than actually pressing them. But give it a try and see what you think. They hold their color well. And here's some marigold. We've got the variegated color and the orange and the yellows. I tend to like this type of variety best of all. And they work excellent not only for pressing, and what I do when I press them is I will break up the clump. I will take them from their casing, and then I will press the individual florets. And they work really well, hold their color for a really long time. And I use them for both pressing and for eco-printing. Here's another color marigold. They're kind of a rusty orange color, and they're also really beautiful. Here's Status. This is the purple color one. They're just coming on now, and they work good for both pressing and for drying. For drying, I just pick them before they fully open and hang them upside down, and then for pressing, I will pull off these individual cluster clumps, or I will pull the flowers out from the casing and just press the petals. But it's easier to press a section like this than it is to press the whole thing because they're so thick. But they work really well, hold their color for a really long time. Something else that's just starting right now is verbena. And verbena come in all different kinds of colors, and I will press the individual florets both open or in profile. And they hold their color for a really long time. This is a zinnia, and it's one of my favorites. I really like the variegated color on these petals. And while they're too thick to press the actual flower, either open face or in profile, I do like to press the petals, and the petals will hold their color for a really long time. And because of the variegated color, it kind of gives it a watercolor wash effect. These are the monkey flower, and my husband are growing these. He started these from seed, and he's got a lot of different colors. You can see the orangish ones back here. They're gorgeous. And then of course the reddish, and then these ones with a lighter color in it. And they're really happy. They're doing wonderfully. And I will press monkey flowers. I usually press them, try to press them either open face or in profile. And they press tissue paper thin. Something else that's starting to flower right now are the lobelia. And they come in different colors, blues, light blues, ink to kind of pinkish violet hues, and they're wonderful for pressing. And you just simply press them kind of open face, like that. Here's another annual that my husband's growing, and this is probably one of the favorite annuals that he has right now in his yard, simply because I love the contrast between the yellow and then that deeper color. This is one of my favorite colors, actually, this kind of magenta-y burgundy type color, and with the yellow in the center, it just really shows up. I have not ever pressed them before, but I'm going to give it a try just to see. And I was wondering if I could press them kind of open face like that, where it's got the exciting color, because if you try to press them in profile, you don't get that yellowish color. But I'm going to give it a try. I can't really snip it off from here to press it open face, I don't think, because I think it'll fall apart. Let me find one that's spent and see what happens. Now, if I were to snip it off the back, you'd get that big hole in the center. But I might try it. I don't know, play around. If you don't know how something's going to press, then just experiment and find out. I have no idea how it'll hold color. I would suspect that, yeah, let's see, is it high water content? No, it's not a super high water content, so it might work. The geranium that you see on the left, they come in different colors, and they will generally press if you rotate them so that they aren't just staying moist in a book for a really long time, because they do have a fairly high water content on their petals. So you do want to make sure that you rotate them to kind of dry them out as fast as possible. But they will dry well when they make it through, but they work really well in eco-printing. And then the begonia over here, which also comes in a lot of different colors, I use for eco-printing. They're way, way too moist for pressing in the flower press. Something else that's starting to bloom right now are lilies. And both my husband and I have a lot of lilies. We're both lily fans, and we have them in a lot of different colors. And they don't really press in traditional pressing because they're so fleshy and high moisture content. I will try them in eco-printing once in a while, but they're just so beautiful. This is a perennial fuchsia, I think, if memory served me well, because this clump's been here for probably 15 years, that it was called Tom Thumb. And they press really well. I press both the leaves and the flowers, and both on the stem as well as picking off individual florets. And you want to make sure that they're really dry when you press them, and they'll make it through. Some of these ones that are really open sometimes will brown right here in the center, but if you rotate them and get air circulation to them and dry them super fast, you can get them through pretty good, and they will hold their color for a really long time. Same with the leaves. The leaves are really nice using impressed flower arrangements. And you can get them in these kind of darker tones as well as the light. The spittlebugs, though, really are really liking a lot of the tips. I noticed that a lot of the tips have spittlebugs on them. Last month, I think I showed you the asparagus fern, but they were just starting to come on. There were still a lot of fiddlehead ferns, and now they're pretty much fully open. So I just thought I'd show you what this clump looks like now that it's pretty much fully open, and I'll be ready to press these anytime. Something else that's really good for pressing, I primarily press these for the leaves. This is called a dwarf goat's beard, and the leaves are just really cool. I like the spikiness of them. There you can drill down to the smaller pieces on each one for detailed arrangements, or you can do it in this whole leaf pattern here for larger arrangements. The flowers aren't really all that exciting, but they do press well, and they will lend kind of a whitish color. They're not quite fully open yet. They'll get more white and plumey looking. They're just starting now, so you can look for flowers on these too. Something else that presses really well is the annual alyssum, which comes in various pinkish violet type colors, as well as the one that a lot of people are used to seeing, which is the very aromatic white ones. And they all press really well, and typically I will press the tips and then press them in profile. And they work good in arrangements both as clusters or taking off each individual little flower and using them in mini arrangements. These are really nice and small arrangements. The tiny yellow flowers seem to hold their color well. I press them open face. You can see how small they are. They're good for smaller arrangements. And I think this still has the tag. So that's what it is. Really cute. And they're a slow forming clump. The one that he had, I'm thinking, this is my husband's, I'm thinking that he had one that overwintered one year, but then the one he had last year died off. So I'm not sure if they're overwinter in our climate or not. I can't remember for sure. But I do know that this is new this year. That's a stand of Astilbe, and they're not really ready yet. But I just want to take a moment to make a closing comment as we finish up this June garden blog. And that is, I was thinking that during the spring, primarily into February to May, there's a lot going on in the perennial world. And those are pretty much all gone now. And this is kind of a weird time between the perennials being gone and the annuals haven't really started getting really big and happy yet. They're still kind of younger and struggling and I guess you'd just say getting themselves established. And when I started this June blog, I didn't really think I was going to find that much to show you, but surprisingly, I did find quite a few things. But I had to come into my husband's yard to show you a lot of the annuals because he's the annual guy and I'm the perennial person. And so I kind of have to do this little tap dance with him to be able to pick some of his annuals. I have to wait till his annuals get big enough and with enough blooms that I can come over and I can pick a few things to where he doesn't really know that I picked a few things because he does it for display. Don't wreck my display. Don't touch my display. Well, he knows I do, but I just have to do it discreetly. Anyway, this stand of Astilbe's is in his yard, and they're not quite ready yet, but they they get these nice spikes and they press well. I try to film in the morning, so you'll notice that some of the plants are in shade and some of them more in the sun because the sun's just coming up. But around here, you want to film something like this really early in the morning because, as you can see now watching the Astilbe, the wind's starting to come up. And here on the coast, pretty much you get a consistent day breeze every single day that starts anywhere between 9 and 10 o'clock. And so if I want to try to have any hope of getting some calm, still environment for filming, I've got to do it before about 9 o'clock. And you can see as you can see, the wind is starting to pick up even as we've been standing here talking. So hopefully you've enjoyed our little stroll this morning, and I appreciate you tuning in, and you have a wonderful day.